Hi, everyone. This is Jake Alverson. I'm a product specialist at Teq. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can hover over the Zoom and use the Q&A button at the bottom, or you can use the chat tool. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, you can use the chat tool, or you can hover over the Zoom and use the Q&A feature. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. My name is Nick Salufo.
And my name is Joe Cosmai.
And we are your Teq Squad. Today, we're joined by Jake Alverson in the chat box. Hi, Jake.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Alverson. I'm a product specialist. I'll be moderating today's session. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box or hover over the Zoom and use the Q&A feature.
So we're going to talk about all of our elementary STEM products that we have to offer today. Most of our stuff is going to be geared towards that K to 6 range, and we're going to focus on a wide variety of products. Like Jake just said, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to write them in the chat, and we will answer them as quick as we can. So here's a good look at some of the things that we're going to be focusing on today. So as you can see right here, there's 3 different levels of coding that we have. Today for our group, we're going to be focusing on the first 2, the pre-coding and the block-based coding. What pre-coding is, think of it like where before you're getting really started into your coding, you're going to have more of a tactile feel to it, where there's little screen time, so you're not going to have a lot of devices being used with it. And it builds like foundational coding skills to kind of get you started into that beginning piece of it. After that, then you're going to go into more of a block-based coding, which is going to be more of your traditional coding. That's going to be a majority of the focus that we're going to do today. So that's similar to things like Scratch or Blockly or anything along those lines. As you can see right there, like Oozobot, Blockly for Wonder Workshop, all those different things. We're going to show you a wide variety of different stuff. And then last but not least, we are going to focus on text-based coding as well. We're not going to focus too much on that. We will touch on that a little bit near the end, but that's kind of geared more towards your high school level. So we're not going to focus too much on that, but we will touch on it a little bit today just to kind of get a sense of where you go as the next step from block-based coding.
So again, like Joe mentioned, the idea behind this trajectory is to build the foundational skills with that pre-coding section, and then be able to introduce coding that students will see in the real world. So this is just a good kind of infographic for you guys to see and visualize as we go through this. A lot of the products will touch upon a few of these different sectors. So let's go ahead and jump into our first product, which is the Kibo device. So the Kibo is intended for your ages 4 to 7, essentially kindergarten to first grade. And the big thing behind this is that there is no screen time involved with this. So this is great for students, especially at that early kindergarten, even pre-K level, for them to kind of understand the building blocks behind coding. As you can see in that graph that's there, that picture that's there, everything is color coded, the blocks and everything like that. Makes it nice and visually appealing for the students. And the idea is students have tactile blocks that they will be putting together in order to form a chain of code. And then they're going to use this Kibo robot right here in order to scan those blocks and then continue the code. As you can see, we have different sensors that easily just snap into it, making it very easy and intuitive for any age level, which is nice. And then you can see on the bottom too, you're able to really see kind of the brains behind this. All you really need is a couple AA batteries in order to get started, and then you're off and running with it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look on our overhead camera, and Joe's going to explain it a little bit more in detail.
Thank you, Nick. So as you can see right here, this is our Kibo robot. So again, as a closer look, we can see we got, you have all the guts in there. It is all powered just by AA batteries, so you don't have to worry about too much about charging it. And the battery life is pretty long. And then right over here, we have all of our sensors. So this was a sensor that I like to show off. This is the ear sensor. So obviously what are ears used for? They're used for hearing. And this is how our Kibo robot is going to hear. That way it makes it a lot easier for the students to understand what each sensor does. So that way they know how to code the robot itself. And then these are the actual blocks right here. You can see all of the blocks are color coded as well. This block right here, this is my beginning block. So now a student might not know what the word begin means yet as a kindergartner, but they can see the green and know that green means go. And then we have this one right here. You can see the end means stop. As you see here, each block has a barcode on it. So we're going to use the Kibo robot right here, and we're going to scan our code. So start just like this. And then we have that right there. We have our code ready to go. After that, I'm going to hit the little triangle button right here. And we're going to see it's going to do a little bit of a spin. The red light's going to turn on. Now, what it's not going to do, it's not going to do anything until it hears a clap. That's using that sound sensor that I was just showing you. So once I clap, it does a little shake. The blue light turns on right here. And then we just successfully made a code with our Kibo robot. Now, there's lots of different types of blocks that you can get. There's about 26 or so different blocks, as well as expansion packs that you can get as well. And then there's also ways to get very artistic with it too, where you can add all kinds of different platforms and white little mini like dry erase boards and things along those lines to add to the Kibo robot. A fun activity that I like to do, it's called the World's Fair, where you're gonna put your class into different groups and you're gonna assign each group a country that they're going to research. Then they're gonna decorate that robot to represent the country, and you're gonna code it so that way it parades around the classroom to give you a really good idea of how the Kibo kind of brings into that A in STEAM as well. And you can see how easy it was to simply just to code the robot. All of the sensors, as you can see right here, I'm able to pop them in or out, and I can interchange them and move them in whatever direction that I want. Same thing with the wheels here as well. I can move them, and then there's things that I can add in the middle platform right here as well. So again, the Kibo robot is a great learning tool specifically geared towards that A-2 range where you don't have to worry about screen time. And it's not only easy for the student, but it's also really easy for the teacher to learn as well, and then implement that with the student.
As you see too, there are some blocks there for like repeats and if-then statements. So you could even take this into 3rd or 4th grade. Again, just extending the use of this Kibo robot, which is nice. So many ways to use this Kibo robot. And again, the biggest thing going for it is that tactile ability. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and switch to our next product, which is Oozobots. So the thing about Oozobots is you have the ability to do either with the screen or without the screen. So you have kind of a couple options there. When you're not using the screen, you're going to be using markers and color codes. And Joe will explain what that's like in a little bit. But the idea with the Oozobot is it's very versatile. So it's a very small robot, but the idea behind this is, but it's very powerful, which is nice. So students could go ahead and color code it in first, second, third grade just by drawing with markers and using different color combinations to do different functions. And then you're able to do a block-based Oozobot Blockly component with it as well. And then the students would actually be able to see those block-based components constructed in JavaScript too. So like we showed you earlier, there is a pathway forward for this. So you're not necessarily just pigeonholed into kindergarten through first grade. You can really use this through K through 6 and beyond as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Joe, and he's going to show you what it looks like on the overhead camera.
Great, yeah. So like Nick said, this is just a great learning tool that you can use for multiple different grade levels. So as you can see right here, this is my color code. So this gives you different examples of codes that you can do. And you can see right here, we'll get a little bit closer so that way we can see what that looks like. And there's all kinds of different combinations using all different colors, specifically black, red, green, or blue, and using them in different orders to create all kinds of different codes. So for example, this code right here is called a tornado. And then when I run the Oozobot over that code, where to go? One second. Give that for it to turn on, and we're going to run that code.
So the good thing about the Oozobots, they provide you some markers for this as you are going ahead and you're drawing. But this will work with a variety of different markers. In our experience, whenever we've been out in the field, teachers have dry erase markers and maybe dry erase tables. And we have found that dry erase markers work just as well as the markers they provide. The only suggestion that they have is that you have a chisel tip on your marker just to provide a kind of even spacing there, which is nice. So again, like Joe was showing you, there's different functions for speed, direction, and the idea behind this is the students can create their own pathways and continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and see if Joe is ready here.
Yep. So now we can run this code, and we're going to see it right here. Then when it runs over those specific colors, it's going to do a different command, in this case, the tornado, where it slowly starts spinning and gets faster and faster. After that, then we're going to do that's a little bit of a zigzag. And then we have this one right here. We do a little bit of a moonwalk right at the end. This is a fun little activity that I got right off of Oozobot's website. It's called a speed test, and it basically allows you to see the different speeds at which Oozobot can move. So we're going to test that out right now. And again, I got this right off of Oozobot's website, and it's great because they have so many different resources that are available to you that you can easily download, and they're all completely free. So as you see, when it runs over that code, they move at different speeds. So right now, that was the snail code. So now it's running incredibly slow. And then afterwards, it'll pick up to its normal speed. And as we go through all kinds of different colors and things along those lines, it will move at different speeds. Again, there's all kinds of different activities that are available on their website. I had one it's like almost like a maze that you have to fill in the blanks for, that you have to to solve that. So that's how the color coding works. As you can see, there's no devices that are used for this. So this is a great pre-learning activity to understand the concept of coding for those really young students. Now, Nick also has is going to show you how the block-based coding works through the Oozoblockly, which is a web-based application that you can be used on any kind of device.
Yeah, so that is the very important thing here, is that it doesn't matter if you have a Chromebook, if you have a Mac, or a Windows-based device, this Oozoblockly will work on every platform, which is nice. So essentially what we have here is you have the ability to connect straight to the Oozobot. And if you go ahead, you can see on the left, you see some numbers there that I'm toggling through. And that is the user's ability. So on stage 1, we have, as you see, we have very little options that are available to us, but it's more graphic, it's more visual. So especially for those students who are just transitioning out of that color code phase and you want to introduce block-based, this is a good way to do it. So again, very visual, makes it very easy. As the students progress, you have the ability to, obviously up the difficulty, so to speak. And you notice a lot more options become available to you as you scale upwards. And then obviously different combinations of text that's there for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that, I'm going to go ahead and show you that this example of block-based coding that is here. this is like a dancing activity for the Oozobot, which is cool. If at any time, too, you're not sure about anything, they have a glossary that's built in. Again, a great resource for the students if they're by themselves, or for the teacher if they're just kind of getting used to this as well. And like I mentioned earlier, you do have the ability to see that JavaScript side by side. So I'm able to go ahead and grab a block, and you'll notice that it's highlighted on the right in the JavaScript. The students are able to know exactly what block is represented by that JavaScript. And again, scaling them upwards so they become familiar with this. And then when they get into high school or even the real world, they'll have these skills because you gave it to them already. I just want to go ahead and ask Jake if there's any questions in the chat box that we need to address.
There's no questions right now. One note I did want to say was Oozobot can be used on Chromebooks. There is a web-based version. I am going to put a link in the chat to that web-based version for anyone who has students using Chrome.
Thank you, Jake. So again, yes, Oozobots, like we mentioned, they do have a K through 12 lesson library that's suitable for any age group, as well as they're all standard aligned too for your NGSS and Common Core standards, which is nice. So we're going to transition to our next product here, which is Wonder Workshop. So Wonder Workshop is a great tool to use, again, in that K through 6 space. Generally, we see this in the first, second grade, third grade, depending on the abilities of the students. But again, there's a lot of things that the teachers can do with this. So very visual, which is nice. As you see, we have our dash robot right here. His head will move around. You have wheels down here, as well as different sensors to detect obstacles and things like that. And the two products that we'll focus on specifically are the dot and the dash. So these two will communicate with each other, and that can be achieved through block-based coding or through a precursor to that, which we'll show you in just a moment. But before we do that, I just want to go ahead and transition to Joe, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about that block-based coding section.
Yeah, so basically what we're going to have here, these are all the different types of things that you can do. It's called challenge cards. So we're going to bring our dash robot in over here so that way we can see what it looks like. And then we have all kinds of different levels that you can do. So as you can see here, there's 72 different cards that are all different types of levels, from something as simple as just moving the robot in a specific pattern to something like these codes that we have right here are loops. So this right here, if you're going to see, this actually kind of gives you a good idea of what the blocks are, and to show you what it kind of looks like and how to use each block in conjunction. And with this one, it shows you step by step in exactly how each block you're going to do. And then after that, it gets a little bit more complicated where it's, okay, here is the blocks, but now we don't have the values that are in this. We have to figure out the values. And then for the next step after that, then goes into, okay, well, here are some different activities I want you to do. Here are some blocks that you may use. So Nick is opening that up right now. So it actually uses traditional block-based coding, very similar to the Oozobot that we just showed you. So let's take a look at the coding and see how that looks.
So here we have the code. This is kind of one of the challenge cards that Joe showed you earlier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this dash robot, put it here so you guys could see. And essentially what this is going to do is spin around. I think we'll get a better view on our overhead, so we'll put that there for you to see. And you'll be able to see the code side by side with that dash robot. So I'm going to go ahead and play that code.
So the way that this particular code is going to work is that dash is going to keep spinning around in a circle forever, as we have that repeat forever block, until we pick them up. Then you see when I pick them up right here, the wheels are going to stop. And then he's going to sigh a breath of relief because he's no longer dizzy, because he was spinning around in circles for so long. So we're using all kinds of different values to represent the different types of things that you can do with the dash robot. Now, just like Oozobot, there is a ton of different options that you have of different kinds of blocks that you can do. So you can do different drive blocks to make the wheels move in all kinds of different directions, as well as all kinds of different loops and variables that you can put in. So you can really customize the coding to suit your needs. And as you can see on that picture as well, on there's a lot of different attachments that come with it as well. So you see the xylophone right there. You can actually play some music with it and code the dash or dot robot to play music on the xylophone. There's also a bulldozer that you can see right there too. A fun activity that we did was we took a bunch of cotton balls, put them on a table, and then we took 2 separate dash robots with the bulldozer, and we wanted to see how many of the cotton balls each dash robot was able to kind of push away, almost like we were kind of pushing away snow or something like that. Again, not something we're thinking about in July, but a fun activity that you can do. And so there's all kinds of different attachments that you can get as well. Even a catapult that you can see in the back of the dash robot too. So you can do something like having it make its way through a maze, and then at the end there's a target, and you have to line the dash robot up properly. That way when it shoots the ball, it hits the target. So now that block-based coding was one thing that we just showed you, but there's even an earlier precursor activity that you can do before that for some students that that block-based coding may be a little too much for them at that point, and that's called the Wonder app. Now, the apps that we are showing you can be used across all kinds of devices. We're showing it through an iPad that's attached to our smart panel. However, you can use this with Chromebooks as well, or other Apple devices, or things along those lines. So let's take a look at that Wonder app and see what it looks like.
Thank you, Joe. So this is the Wonder app, like we mentioned earlier. And the idea behind this, again, is just to provide a nice, whimsical world for the students to get introduced to coding. You do have the Wonder Cloud here, where you could essentially find things that people have already created, download them, and modify to your own liking. But what we like to show is the Scroll Quest. And this Scroll Quest is essentially mimicking a video game. The students will go level by level and learning different skills along the way. If they're unsure on what to do, there's a help function where the students could see a video of a student actually performing the task, as well as a nice visual guiding them through it. So we always find Wonder Workshop to be a very good self-contained thing for a student that doesn't require a lot of teacher intervention. So if you have stations within the classroom, I mean, granted, during this period of remote learning, things are a little bit different, but you do have that ability in the classroom to do these types of activities. So one activity that we've done in the past that we've created with students is a Marco Polo activity. Essentially, what this is going to do is use the different sound sensors that's built in to the Dash robot. So what he'll do is he'll turn green, which will signify that he's listening. Then he'll wait to hear a voice. So in this case, it would be us saying Marco, and he would respond. So again, he'll turn towards the person that's speaking. He will turn yellow, signifying that he heard it. And then he'll go 20 centimeters should be fine. But again, you have the ability to change that on the fly, which is very simple and easy to do. And then he'll play a custom sound that we've created of us saying polo. So I'm going to go ahead and have Joe come in here as well with me, just to show you what it looks like with the robot when we play this code. So I'm going to go ahead and move over a little bit.
All right, so yeah, this is a fun activity. Again, taking something that we are already familiar with the Marco Polo, or a game that students are going to be familiar with already, and kind of doing it like that. So when we hit the play button right here, Marco. And then as you see, as it's hearing the different sounds, it's changing its direction and moving towards it. So it's using the same sound sensor that we showed you with the Kibo before, except it's now internal, built into the Dash robot instead of built externally. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of options of ways to code the Dash and Dot robot. So Jake, are there any questions at all about Dash and Dot in the chat right now?
There are no questions at this time, but I did want to bring up a few things. So one of the biggest questions that we've been getting is, how do you keep STEM learning going when students are at home? Sometimes they're not going to have access to these robots because they may be in the classroom, and there's probably not a robot to go to every student. One of the things that Wonder Workshop has done to address this is they've included something new called Dash's Neighborhood with their Class Connect software. Class Connect is a cloud-based software. It essentially allows the teacher to manage student learning remotely through the Wonder Workshop platform. So they can go through all the Wonder Workshop lessons. They can create programs in Blockly. And one of the new things that Wonder Workshop has done is they've added a virtual robot, Dash robot, to the Blockly app. So now when students run that code, they can run it on the virtual robot. That gives students the ability to continue learning coding through robotics at home. And it just is a really great solution that has been getting a ton of positive feedback. If you would like to know more about that, we did a session during the virtual summit on Class Connect. earlier on Tuesday, and that we can send that recording out.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, it's a great tool to be using. So the next product that we're going to be focusing on now is Cubelets. Cubelets are small programmable cubes that have all kinds of different functions and all snap together just using magnets. As you can see too, there's even Lego bricks that you can attach on there as well. There's 17 different types of cubes, each one having different functions, and all built into 3 different types of categories that allows you the student to really get creative and focus more on a project-based learning platform with this, because there's no one specific answer to a problem when it comes with Cubelets, where you can pose a very broad question and let the students come up with their own ideas and their own invention. So now there's 3 different types of cubes that you have to have in every single robot that you have built. The first one are your sense cubes. So that's these black cubes right here. Again, all of the Cubelets blocks are color-coded as well. So these are actually sensing the environment around you and acting in different ways. So for example, this block right here is going to have a light sensor, and it's actually reading the amount of light in a room. There's also different cubes that focus on distance or different thresholds and things along those lines. The next type is the act cubes. Those are the white cubes or the clear cubes right over here. Those are going to read the amount of input you're getting from the sense cube and act in different ways. So it could be like a wheel moving, or it could be a light turning on, or something spinning around, all kinds of different physical movements or actions. Then the last one is your think cube. So what the think cubes are going to do, those are these different colors that are right here. These think cubes are going to read the sensor data and then manipulate it in different ways depending on the type of cube to make that movement cube or that act cube do something different. So let's take a closer look at an actual example of a fully built product.
Thank you, Joe. So as you see, we have a variety of different blocks here and cards and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and just hold this up for you guys to see this. This is a nice kind of reference chart we made, just signifying the different categories that Joe mentioned earlier. You'll notice those act cubes are all clear. Those sense cubes are usually like that black color. And then the think cubes vary color depending on their function. So just a nice kind of reference as you go through Cubelets. As you see, I have here a couple blocks that are here. You're always going to need your power block. So this is just like a nice charcoal color here. I'm going to attach the sensor. This one is a light sensor here. So essentially, this eye will read the amount of light that's there. I'm going to go ahead and then put those outputs that Joe showed you earlier. This is just a wheel that will spin around, and then a light. So the idea behind this is we're creating a functioning lighthouse, essentially, using these. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on, and you'll notice it'll begin spinning. When I cover that sensor there, it stops spinning. So if it's light out, it spins fast. If it's dark, it spins slow. Now, that's normally not how a lighthouse functions. It functions the other way. Inversely, we use the red inverse cube, and this will essentially tell this to do the opposite of what it was currently doing. So now when I turn this on, you'll notice it's not moving. When it's dark, the lighthouse will spin faster and brighter. So for ships out at sea, they'll know that's there and they won't crash into the coast there, which is nice. So that's one example there. As you see, there's a variety of different challenge cards associated with it as well. And like Joe mentioned, the idea behind this is to be strictly project-based learning. So if you wanted students to create a steering robot, essentially using a couple ones where they steer it based on their hands and using different sensors. And then the things that you get, basic setup, maybe a couple hints on what blocks you can use and the difficulty behind it. Again, these are supposed to be open-ended. You want your students to be able to solve the problem without you giving them essentially all the tools. So really kind of strengthen those critical thinking skills and just allowing the students to kind of really have fun with these. Oftentimes when Joe and I are out in the field and we do events with students, these are the first things they gravitate to because it allows them a lot of freedom and creativity. We've had students take every essentially block that's in there, put it all together, and it's a giant thing spinning around, but they're able to then go ahead and tell me after the fact what pieces they used and why it's doing the thing that it's doing. Again, demonstrating to me as an educator that they're thinking critically with all the tools that they have.
Great. So the next product that we're going to be focusing on now is going to be what's called Little Bits. So Little Bits is going to be a similar type of feel to Cubelets, and then it's very geared towards project-based learning and creating all kinds of different inventions, where there's two different types of kits that you're going to have. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Steam Kit. The Steam Kit is where you have all kinds of different, literally little bits, and we're going to take a closer look at what an invention would look like in a second, where you're going to have all these little bits that all snap together with magnets, just similar to Cubelets, to create all these different types of inventions. So for example, the first thing that I created when I had little bits was I created basically a fan that was attached to a temperature sensor, so that way when it got too hot, which is we're dealing with right now, we're having a heat wave over here, the fan will turn on based on whatever the temperature is, and it'll go faster based on how high or how hot it was, and then when it gets below a certain threshold, it would get a little bit lower. The Code Kit is very similar, but the main focus is now you're going to be doing block-based coding as well as actually building something together. So it's using those same principles that we showed you with Wonder Workshop and Oozobot and similar other products, and now combining the tactileness of it. So let's take a look at what a kit looks like and what one of our inventions looks like.
Thank you, Joe. So as you see, we have constructed here. Here's a nice kit for you to see. I'm going to go ahead and open it just so you can take a clearer look at the Steam Kit that's there. So you'll notice a variety of different sensors that you have. Again, all color-coded. So similar to the blocks in Kibo that we showed you earlier, all of these are color-coded based off function. So all your inputs are going to be pink, all your outputs are going to be green, blue is power, and orange is signifying a computer or computer-like abilities to do there. So the idea behind this, like Joe mentioned, is to just kind of really get creative. If you have trouble figuring it out, there's always an instruction booklet that'll come with it with a bunch of ideas for you to go ahead and get started. So the idea behind this, again, is to not have a device, but to have the bits and really kind of explore those different projects that you can do with. So part of the Code Kit, which I'll have here, is again, very similar to the Steam Kit, and you can use the pieces interchangeably between the kits. But the idea behind this is now we're using those bits and we're going to be coding them using block-based coding. So what we have here is a hot potato activity. What I have here is my power source, so a rechargeable lithium-ion battery attached to the blue component, again, which is responsible for power. This pink one is my input, so it's just a button that will tell the rest of the code to kind of run. This orange piece here is kind of my computer, essentially. So that's where all the information gets stored on that Code Kit. And then these green ones here are a speaker. And then you could see here I have attached this LED matrix here as well. So that's kind of how you would put it together. And in a minute, we'll show you kind of what that app looks like and how that functions as well. So the idea behind this, again, is to be a hot potato activity. So when I go ahead and press the button, you'll notice that that heart's beating faster and faster and faster until you get the skull and crossbones, signifying that you lost. So positive, positive, obviously, the smiling face, the heart to build that anticipation, and then that you can change the frequency and pitch as well as that speeds up. So this is one example of the types of things you can do using that Little Bits coding kit. We're going to go ahead and show you what that software looks like.
Yep, so this is what the actual Code Kit app looks like. So you'll see right there, there's all kinds of different blocks that you have access to. I could easily just click into my LED matrix right here. And if I want to change the smiley face, you can see there's all kinds of different colors. So if I want to add blue eyes, I just select the blue and we make it a little, we give it blue eyes or something like that. So again, the LED matrix is completely customizable however you want. And you'll see there's all kinds of different blocks that you have right here too. So this, you have these, the heartbeat blocks that are showing how the blocks change at specific intervals. And then if we scroll down too, you'll see here, these send tone blocks that have the different octaves on it are going to represent the different sound levels and decibel levels that were represented during that activity. Now, there was one time once where I actually showed this to a student, and like the pitch of it really bothered him. So I said, you know what, I'm going to give you the code and let's figure out how to change it. And so he went in, he figured out which blocks controlled the different octave levels, and then more or less changed them. and manipulated them until he found something that was a little bit more appealing to him. So all of these codes are completely customizable. And then you can also take the JavaScript as well and see what it looks like in JavaScript. Now, you can't code in JavaScript, so just keep that in mind. However, it is a good way to get that side-by-side comparison, similar to how we were showing it with the Oozobot as well. So there's a lot of different things, that different ways that you can code the Little Bits application. Before we continue, Jake, are there any questions at all in the chat about any of the products we've shown so far?
No, there aren't any questions, but I did want to mention something as well, kind of still on the topic of hybrid and remote learning. Something really cool that Little Bit's coming out with is the Fuse app. That app will allow you to basically create virtual circuits using the Little Bit, so you can see how things snap together and then program them. So even if you don't own all the bits, you'll still be able to create some of those circuits virtually, which is really nice. Also, wanted to mention something about Oozobot I didn't get to earlier. They also have a virtual simulator called Shape Tracing. It's a completely online and free game that students can play, and they can essentially code virtual Oozobots to do different things in the Oozobot. So that's something that's really cool as well. If your students are using Oozobot at school, they can continue using the shape tracing tool to be able to continue that learning even if they don't have the Oozobot.
Great. Thank you, Jake. Again, all great points, especially during this period of remote learning that we're finding ourselves in due to COVID. The next thing we're going to show you is Bloxels. So if you're a huge video game nerd, like most of us here, Bloxels is right up your alley. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is constructing digital storyboards to communicate a story, which is nice. This will use a conjunction of the app. So this will require your device to have a camera on it. So it will work with Chromebooks as well. If you're curious about if your device is compatible or not, Bloxels has a great kind of conversion chart for you to see that's there, as well as that EDU hub allowing students and teachers to kind of share curriculum and things like that. So essentially what you're going to be doing is taking that 13 by 13 grid and using different blocks to create characters, level design, different artwork, and things like that. So in terms of STEM education, this is a really great for allowing your students to kind of get a little bit more artistic with it and really kind of, again, like Joe mentioned earlier, putting that A in STEAM and allowing them to have that creativity. So I'm going to hand it off to Joe, and he's going to show you what that tray looks like and an example that we've created for you.
Thanks, Nick. So this right here is a Bloxels kit that you're going to get when you first open it up. So when you open it up right here, we'll see we have a blank tray that we're going to have right here, as well as a little bit of a guide that tells you all kinds of what each different colored block does. So for example, our green ones are our terrain, our red ones are hazards, and there's all kinds of different ones. And then we have the blank tray here. And then underneath, you'll see we have tons of different blocks. You can see there's 8 different colors, and there's a lot of blocks that come with each one. So you have plenty to really customize it however you want. This particular one we have right here is a fun activity that we made, or a fun character that we made. So Nick and I used to be social studies teachers, so we really wanted to dive into the history portion of Bloxels and show how it can be used across all kinds of different subject matter. So this is a Bloxels character that we created that's Ben Franklin, where you can see right here, you have the little kite with the key on it. And we just use all kinds of different blocks to make our own character. And once you're done making your character, you're going to scan it into the Bloxels EDU app. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do that. The easiest way is to have a tablet or something with the rear-facing camera, such as like an iPad or a Chromebook with the rear-facing camera, whatever the case may be. Or there's also ways that you can do this digitally as well. So if you don't have access to the physical tray, there is a digital version of this as well that you can get across any kind of device. So after we're done scanning it, then we can manipulate it and change the character to make it look a little bit more lifelike in the EDU app. And Nick is going to show you what that looks like.
Yes, so this is kind of the meat and potatoes behind Bloxels, which is nice. So as you can see, we've already scanned in our Benjamin Franklin character design that's in there. I went ahead and tweaked the different color, the skin color and things like that. You can change colors after the fact once you've scanned it into the app, which is nice. And as you see, you can do different walking animations down there, as well as jumping animations and falling animations to really kind of customize the movement of the character, which is cool. To go ahead and further just create your character and what it looks like, you have the ability to, over here under that DNA section, kind of change the speed on how fast he's going to be walking, as well as how large he's going to be too. So maybe I want to make a large figure or a large enemy for my students, or they're created in their stories, as well as their how much health they have and different attacks and stuff like that. So for the students, it puts a lot of creativity in their hands and how their character is going to operate, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and switch to that game builder. So we've already created this game. Again, I called it Benjamin Franklin. Here you can see kind of the blocks that are there. I'm going to go ahead and just move my character all the way to the beginning so you can see how this works. As you see, I constructed a pretty comprehensive level here. So this is the start over here. If I go into this mode, you can see the blocks that I've used. So all those green blocks, like Joe mentioned earlier, those are all terrain. So when I'm creating this, this is what the character is going to be walking on. Those yellow blocks there are signifying a power-up. So in this sense, we created a lightning bolt. So Benjamin Franklin's taking his kite and he's collecting his lightning bolt. And the whole idea behind this game is, as you progress through it, you learn different facts about Benjamin Franklin, his life, and his contributions. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you what that looks like. We're going to test it. So as you see, I can jump around, I can move around. As you see here, I put kind of instructions. The British are coming. Oh no, we got to run away. Fight your way through the enemies and collect as many lightning bolts as you can.
So Nick, did you write that, or was that somebody else, or was that something that was built in there?
Great. This is all custom created by me. Everything you're seeing, the house that I created, they do have some asset packs as well. So that's what I use for the terrain that's there. So you don't necessarily have to create everything from scratch, but for one example, again, Joe said we taught social studies. If you want to teach ancient Egypt, they do have an asset pack all about Egyptian kind of culture, different pyramids, things like that, that you can use in your game as you're creating it. So you're not just left to your own devices, which sometimes could be a little intimidating to some users if they're just getting started. So as you see, I can go through, I can interact. I'm going to talk here. This is Benjamin Franklin's wife, tells you when they got married. Go ahead and collect those collectibles that are there. As you see, I can jump around. Now I learn a little bit about Benjamin Franklin as I progress. He's the youngest of 16. And the idea is, again, you go through this game, defeat the redcoats by jumping on them. Oh, I got hit there. Boom. And again, I learn a new fact about Benjamin Franklin. Only founding father to sign all 4 documents established the United States: Declaration of Independence, Treaty of Alliance with France, Treaty of Paris, and the U.S. Constitution. Again, this is one example of what your students can do. Again, digital storytelling. Or if you want to look to put some more assessment-based strategies within your game, you do have the ability to do that. And the way we found you can do that is by taking, say, the incorrect answers. So you use one of those signposts to pose the question. The incorrect answers become an enemy or an obstacle or something like that. And the correct answer could be a collectible. So as the student goes through it, they have that kind of feedback, knowing what is correct and what is incorrect. The idea behind this, again, is pure creativity. And if you have those students who are interested in game design, this is a perfect way for them to collaborate with each other, as well as use maybe story building cards if they're not completely sure on what to do, and move on.
And it's nice too. It's a really great learning tool specifically for remote learning, because through that Bloxels EDU app, the students are actually able to virtually share all of their creations with each other. So that way you have the options to basically, to share those ideas. So that way, if I'm working on that Ben Franklin character and Nick wanted to use it for his own idea, but we weren't next to each other and we couldn't each individually scan the Bloxels tray, I could share it through that EDU app in my classroom, and then he can use that and use it however he wants. If he wants to use it as a character or an enemy, whatever the case may be. And then you could basically share, and then you could have the entire class working on a Bloxels level as well, where you can have assign groups of students to each individual piece to it. So the next product that we're going to be focusing on today is called the Sphero. So the Sphero is a spherical robot that's geared towards coding for that I'd say about third grade and up. So this is not something that you're going to start with at that very early age. But if you use those other products that we showed to kind of get that basis of understanding, then it's a great learning tool to use great learning tool to use. It has a ton of different sensors that are built in as well. It's also virtually indestructible. We have beaten up these Spheros a lot over the years of just trying all kinds of different activities and challenges that you can do with the Sphero, and they still work all the exact same. Now, there's a few different ways that you can code the Sphero robot using the Sphero EDU app. Now, that app, again, like I said, we're using it on an iPad, but you can use it across all kinds of different devices. So what we're going to show you today, we'll show you the color first really quick, so that way you can see, or the drawing that you can do right here.
So again, this is an activity that you would do with your students who aren't quite accustomed to that block-based coding, but you still want to, again, give them those foundational skills and have them understand that what they do on the iPad or their device will communicate to the robot to do something.
Correct. So this right here is my draw code. So if I can use like either my finger or a stylus just to kind of, I want to do a little circle, and the Sphero is going to follow the path that you create. But the real meat and potatoes of Sphero comes from the block-based coding. So a fun activity that we have is called the Tamagotchi activity. If we all remember Tamagotchis from the 90s, I was a 90s kid. So I definitely had one of those growing up. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the different sensors that are built into the Sphero robot right here to show you how it works. So as you can see right here, this is my code. And this is a pretty complicated code. I got this right off of the Sphero EDU website. So we're going to start our activity. We're going to connect the Sphero Bolt robot. It's all Bluetooth connected.
Before you do that, Joe, I just want to remind you to turn on the sound so our listeners there would be able to hear the Sphero as it's going through these progressions there, which is obviously important.
Great. So this is our Sphero robot right here. So we're going to connect it and we're going to start the activity.
Can you care for your creature and earn him enough to grow up, be cute and happy? Your creature wants attention. Rock forward or back.
So we're going to rock the Sphero forward and backward, and then it can read it moving because it's got a gyroscope built in.
+1 for a total of 1 heart. Creature wants you to surgery.
Now this is using the LED matrix on here, so that way you can see it changing all kinds of different colors. So you'll see right here, we'll just shake it, and if we do it incorrectly, then you'll see right there that we get a boo, and it tells us we neglected it. And it's going to run through all kinds of different activities. So we'll do this last one right here, and we'll spin them like a top. And again, you can see it's able to read all kinds of different data. Now you can also go into the JavaScript code as well, just similar to how we were showing you earlier with the little bits and the Oozobots. You have the side-by-side code, but what's really cool about Sphero is that you can code from scratch into JavaScript. So that way, if you want to really teach students how to use JavaScript coding, this is a great tool where they can really build up to it, where they're starting at a basic piece with using that drawing. Then they can go into the block base, and then from there, they can jump into that JavaScript code, which really allows you to differentiate the instruction and also leverage it for multiple different grade levels, even beyond just that K to 6 range. And this, so that is it for Sphero, and that is all the time we actually have today. I want to, so like I said, if you have any questions at all, you can feel free to reach out to us throughout the course. Feel free to reach out to us. We are Teq Squad. We can definitely do personalized webinars focusing on all kinds of different products. This is just a nice taste of the products that we have to offer. I also want to thank Jake in the chat as well.
Thank you, everybody. And again, we will be pushing out a recording of this webinar to everyone in a few days. So please be on the lookout for that. You are free to share that with anyone who wasn't able to attend the session. And if you ever have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me, Nick, or Joe. We're happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Again, thank you guys for joining us. We are your Teq Squad, and keep on learning.